3 endurance events this campaign. We head to a circuit that's classic to the world of motor racing, but only new and introduced to iRacing in the past couple of months. Today we welcome you to Silverstone, the home of British motor racing. It's located in England, in the United Kingdom, of course, and today it hosts the 8th round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. Only 3 rounds remain, with all coverage on ApexRacingTV. Here are the track details up on screen. It's a 5.8 kilometer circuit, 3.5 miles depending on your units of choice. Look at the track temp, 35 degrees Celsius, and 48 cars out there lapping away on the racetrack. It's going to get heated up, it's going to get rubbered in, and this new arena Grand Prix layout of Silverstone includes 18 turns around the clockwise layout, 8 to the left, 10 to the right, minimal braking zones, as we know every time we head to Silverstone. Only 11 meters of elevation change, so not much of a challenge in terms of elevation, and you can see across the wide portion of the circuit there on screen. Challenge in terms of setup. We'll discuss all of that a little later on. The main challenge, though, this afternoon is the 90-minute event. It's our last of 3 endurance rounds for Season 8 this time out. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth alongside Daniel Leet, Scott Newton behind the scenes in production. And Daniel, here we are. iRacing produces another track of brilliance. It's good to be around here. And I'm glad to say this is the first time I've been broadcasting at this new Silverstone on iRacing.
Yeah, good morning, Jonathan, and to all the viewers tuning in. Yeah, phenomenal circuit. New in terms of development for what iRacing have done recently. You had the upgrade from the classic layout to the now current spec circuit in Silverstone, and certainly provides a lot more opportunities for passing, which we'll get into a bit later on in the race. And as you say, going into 90 minutes tonight for the last of the Endurance Championships, is going to be very entertaining to see what these guys are able to pull out of the bag.
Of course, and there is the grid on the screen right now as Gardner is up in the first position. Dean Ross joins him in the second spot. This is your GTE field. Now, don't forget, we have 2 classes of cars in this development series here today. The rest of the grid will cycle through on screen before we commence. It's a racing action. A few notable names down the order. Lee Vanderberg, he starts down outside the top 10. And we have an extensive grid of 23 GTEs, Daniel. But Matt Allison, once again, is the quickest driver in the GT3 field. He's almost unstoppable these last few rounds. And this is what this GT development series is for, you know, for is to build that front-running experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think for what the guys are putting on in the series certainly gives you a great understanding of how the cars react without needing to get into the nitty-gritty of setup changes and working on it from there. So for what he's been able to do in the championship so far, doing a very good job. And we're going to cut here to the live screen as the guys make their way up, and the lights are not too far off going green.
Exactly it. It is Adam Gardner up ahead in the first position, and he is he's taken a great pole position there, but Dean Ross behind. You know, he's ever quick in that Ferrari. The drivers floor it. We go green from Silverstone for the 3rd final round of the season.
Yeah, and a great jump from all competitors getting away. Adam Gardner getting a nice jump there up through turn 1 and getting a good little run over Ross.
How about your GT3s now have commenced the race? Because look at the GT, well, they're coming through the final corners, but your GTE battle seemed to be stagnant towards the start, and the same for Matt Allison as Damon Mulqueen behind in the second BMW in this order is not able to rear end there of Allison. So they'll head through the arena section for the first time, and no changes in your top 3. But look at that dive from Damon Mulqueen.
Yeah, guys will be starting to feel each other out. Obviously, got to work up the tyre temperature. It is a long race to go. We're only 2 corners in at the moment, so they've all got themselves into a nice single file train at the moment, and we'll see these attacks starting to come thick and fast very soon.
Yeah, the field's spread out by quite an immense amount. You can see the gaps on the left-hand side of the screen there. No one really within 3/10 of each other. I can see in the 9th position there, BJ Kennedy behind Rob Crisdale in the Mercedes. But here they head into Brooklands for the first time, and no passes made this time out. Back to your GT3s, GTEs for the moment, excuse me, down the front of the order. There's Adam Gardner up ahead. Now look at this here, Daniel. Dean Ross Gets a great run here on towards the hangar straight, and this could be a good pass for the lead potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. As they come down into Brooklands here, it's going to be a great opportunity for a pass. Not maybe quite close enough to get the nose of that Ferrari up, but he will be looking to have a run down through the final set of chicanes up to complete the first lap here. And Ferrari looking very, very competitive right.
Certainly is. Let's look at Dean Ross now through the final corner. See if he can set up Gardner ahead for the lead. At the end of the first lap, though, it looks like Gardner himself will lead in that BMW, the Mach 1 Esports BMW, ahead of Ross. And it's Faulkner, Wallace, Latta, then Stephen Lattimore in 6, Whitaker, Lata, Clements, and Lee Vanderberge up a couple of positions, enters the top 10 here at the start. So brilliant start from Lee Vanderberge. Now, to your GT3s at the end of the first lap, we know Allison and Mulqueen in the first couple of positions. Andrea Cherisara is in 3rd, listed as a privateer. But Scott Gamble, we saw last round, Daniel, who started 5th. Here he is on screen. He's a racy competitor, and he looked racy last time out. There's chances here again at Silverstone in the opening laps.
Yeah, definitely. Scott been around the traps for a fair while now. Very good in the Audi, and as you say, getting more and more familiar with it, race in, race out, and the car looking very well. He's getting it off the corners quite nicely. He's got just in front of him is Casey, just in front of him, Matt. Yes. Casey, yeah. So not too far ahead. Casey with a little bit of a connection issue there by the looks, but the Audi, from the laps I ran around earlier in the week, a little bit harder to get through some of these corners with the trail braking, but Scott doing a very, very good job right now to get that car.
So we didn't get a chance to speak about it earlier, but I'm assuming that what challenges did you have at this track with these cars? Because I know in an open wheeler with a lot of downforce, we know Formula One races a lot around here, there's no braking zones whatsoever, but in GT3s, I'd assume it's quite a different challenge, you know, the likes of Monza, which we see Nathan Huppets with some troubles here on the opening lap, but again, I'd assume it'd be a lot difficult to set up these cars.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think trying to get the trail braking moves through a lot of these cars very hard to do, especially with the mid to rear engine performance in them. Found a lot more consistency with the front engine cars, the likes of the BMWs, the Mercedes, very easy to get around the circuit. May find though with the fixed setup that they do run though, a little bit more tendency for understeering them, which obviously we do have a set of tyres that the guys will need to go through for the endurance race tonight, but they will start finding a lot of understeer in the mid portion of that stint.
Look at Lee Vandenberg in the 9th position, so he's not on screen. This is Paul Wood, but there he is now alongside Faulkner for that 8th position. That's Benjamin Faulkner for a Race on Oz. There's an immense amount of Race on Oz cars. He's got a good run here, Daniel. Brooklands is one of my favorite corners in all of motorsport, and they form up rationally.
Yeah, it does bring the circuit in, or the field concertinas a little bit through those turn 6-7 complex there. If you're able to get a nice run out, which looks like both the BMWs there are able to get a really good drive out, we'll have a nice run up here into Cops. So back onto the old section of the circuit now, and the guys all starting to freight train up in behind.
Certainly are. Cops is I love every corner on this circuit. I can't name one that I don't like. Even this section, Maggots, Beckett's corner on this circuit you don't like?
No, I don't think I could. Look, to be honest, I'd struggle to put a lot of names to most of the corners on the circuit if I wasn't really looking. But no, I think my sort of preferred areas, especially with the new layout now, definitely from Abbey turn 1 down up through that arena section. There's certainly a lot of good opportunities for overtaking if you're able to get the car inside, maybe get the opportunity for a bit of a crisscross manoeuvre, which we're likely to see later on with these guys as well as they continue battling on so hard. But that's probably my favourite section of the course. And as you come around through Vale and Club to finish off the lap, it's also another couple of good spots where if you can get the drive out of those cars, you gain a spot very easily.
Oh, and that's Lee Vanderberg onto the anti-cut strip. Work to begin this race. Is now on the back foot. Look at him get swept up by the GTE field behind. And they were alongside each other heading into Abbey. Oh, contact here between Pellet and Vanderberg. And well, I think there's a bit of damage to the BMW. Ryan Kolstad on race control. Probably discussing a few things with these two, and still argy-bargy. They're getting restless here.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a lot of room given between both drivers there, which is kind of understandable. They're both going for the same bit of real estate, but it has definitely impacted both the cars a long way down. I believe that Matt Morris in the background going way wide in that port.
And Rob Green, probably the best livery out there on the circuit. You know, I'm a big fan of that. Someone's getting surgery. I don't know if that's deliberate, but it looks good with the colors and everything. He's in the 10th position now, promoted after that collision earlier on, but it wasn't. And the good thing I like to see about a collision like that, I don't feel like it was clumsy, Daniel. I think it was just two guys racing for important position.
Yeah, definitely. They're both going for the same bit of real estate. Obviously, race officials will decide the outcome of that one a bit later on. But from what we could see, no, certainly no malice between either driver. No one really looking to take each other out. It was just that same bit of track real estate that they're both diving for. And unfortunately, two cars not quite getting.
So strategy is going to come into play, we assume, in this race with a couple of pit stops. But you'd want to remain in a draft, I'd assume. Look at this long train here on the Hangar Straight as they scream down to Stowe. But got Chambers right now. I mean, he's a driver, for example. He's in the pack right now, I'd assume. Daniel, would you like to remain in the draft or get some clear track for yourself?
Look, it really depends on how you're feeling with the car and how your overall pace is. I think a lot of guys will probably look to stay in the draft. You can get out and coast a little bit, which is going to help you in the long run with the fuel save and the likes. And I know it's a fixed series and you don't really talk a lot about changing the dials because lockdown, but any little bit of fuel advantage you can get, which you're certainly going to be able to do through a draft, is going to help you in the long run, especially with your stops being maybe a little bit quicker at the back end there. But if you've got the car pace, I mean, each driver prefers something a little bit different. I love having the clear road, but also love having someone in front of me to set the lights in front that I know what I'm chasing.
Exactly it. And oh, look at this here between Adam Gardner. I'm not sure why the overlay's showing it like that, but that's Adam Gardner in the first position. God, but look at Dean Ross in the Ferrari. God, he's etched closer and closer, hasn't he, right now? The gap less than 0.4 of a second. As you can see at the top left-hand side of the screen. Problem I find now, Daniel, is getting into cops there. And you can see Dean Ross do it. He just tries to peek and look at the apex before he takes the racing line. If you're that close to the car in front, like I just assume visibility is quite limited.
Yeah, visibility will be down a little bit. Obviously, you don't get as much visibility through the cars as you might do, say, in the V8 supercar, for instance. But with the GT cars being that little bit narrower in profile and the like, you're kind of looking for your reference markers, and being tucked up as close as these guys are, only 0.3 of a second between each other, you want to be able to find those references, and maybe even if you're lucky, get into the guy's head a little bit ahead of you and have him looking in the mirrors, which is only going to help you later on down the line. But looking at the way the Ferraris are going around Silverstone tonight, they're taking up positions 2 through to 6. So the Ferrari, probably the preferred car out here at the moment. Adam Gardner doing a phenomenal job with the BMW, and great for us to be able to see the two different philosophies, the front-engine rear-wheel drive of the BMW versus the mid-engine rear-wheel drive of the Ferrari. Yeah,
nice to see that mix-up, exactly. But who's going to end out on top is the question. So strategy, if Dean Ross can't make his way past pole sitter Adam Gardner. And if you think about it, one BMW leading the GTEs, 5 Ferraris behind. I don't know if you want to make a narrative out of that, Daniel, but there it is for you. Piece of information.
Oh, look, I think we all know the memes that have come out with the BMW, the biggest girl out there. But look, I think he's doing a phenomenal job with being able to keep it out front, and with the likes of the way the Ferrari move around these circuits, lower profile, a little bit slipperier in the race conditions. Adam Gardner's doing a phenomenal job to be able to stay up. Last time by for both drivers was only a 100th of a second between them in outright lap pace. So both cars working very, very similar and doing a great job. The guys a little bit further down, Justin Wallace, Kenneth Latta, not too far off the overall pace. If anything, slightly quicker last time by. And with these guys not battling, they will start to close up, and we're going to see probably 4 or 5 cars get into this train very soon.
Well, your top 6 cars are separated by 2 seconds. 4 seconds. So it's an incredibly close fight right now. And one little spin can really demote you down the order. There's the gap right there. 3.5 seconds now between your top 6 drivers. That seems to be your leading train. They're all in the draft of one or the other, eating that clean air. Whoa, look at Dean Ross through at the final chicane here. He comes through Vale. And Dean Ross is going to have a look here into Village, Abbey, and possibly the loop for the lead.
Yeah, look for him to have a run down the inside into the new arena section up here. Probably not a bad option if you can get the crisscross down the inside, not quite up on the anchors to get it turned, but he's able to hit the apex maybe a little bit better than Adam Gardner is right at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on that. That could be starting to be the understeer that we were talking about a little earlier with the front engine cars suffering a little bit around the circuit.
And this is the battle for the lead. Is it going to switch? Couple of minutes into this event, well, a couple, I say 12. Here's Dean Ross going for the lead for the first time. Is he going to pull off this move into Brooklands? The two leaders alongside each other as Ross skips over the anti-cup strip. And I don't think that's going to be a slowdown, but Ross here, I mean, that's smart by Adam Gardner, just parking it on the apex and limiting Ross's run out of the corner. Here they run to cops.
Yeah, definitely. And from testing that we were able to see earlier in the week, you do have a lot of runoff around this circuit, which doesn't impact you on the slowdown penalty. So the guys are going to want to use all that road. They make their way up through the chicanes up here. That Ferrari not wanting to let go of this, and he's going to put himself in a really good run here down when they clear this, getting down the hangar.
Have a watch of this here as they exit. Arm and collected is Dean Ross. No, there he is giving up the slowdown. So I guessed it. It's a slowdown for Dean Ross. And that's going to promote Justin Wallace into the second position for Race on Oz. So all that hard work is undone.
Yeah, I don't think it'll take him too long to recover that issue, though. We've seen him very strong on the brakes through this section here. So down through turns 16, 17, and 18 in Club and Vale, the Ferrari very, very strong, and Ross doing a really good job through there. So maybe just the one lap to resettle. It will help Adam Gardner have a little bit of breathing room now. He can maybe let those tyres come back to him just a tick and then get back underway. But yeah, not ideal for Ross, but very still early on in the race, 14 minutes down in this 90-minute race.
And to keep you posted, Lee Vanderberg and Josh Mickelmore in. And they are now within the depths of your GT3 field in a bit of traffic. So there's Lee Vanderberg on screen. And is he getting past Scott Gamble? There he is. Scott Gamble's probably had a bit of a fright there. BMW GTE making their way up through the field past the Audi, and here they head through Vale and Club. But early pit stops for them, so I'm not sure if they fell into some trouble, Daniel, but it looks like, I'll tell you what, their race is not in a good position for the moment.
No, not at the moment, but still a long way to go. So hopefully, being the slightly quicker car, I mean, he is a long way down. Where are we? Down 13 spots from his starting position at the moment. With the GT3 cars just ahead of him, he should be able to clear them relatively quickly and get back up. But he has got a lot of work to do to close up on the back of, who is that? I think it's Martin Casey behind. So actually, yeah, Stephen Davis, sorry, the last GTE car ahead of him.
Yeah, so as Daniel just said, he's got a lot of work to do. It's a long race, 90-minute event. This is the third and final endurance round, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. And this season, don't forget, of course, our sponsors of Century Batteries Lismore and the Race Management Service. Visit rms55.com.au for more information on the Race Management Service, which is an awesome tool. And of course, check out the Apex Racing TV website and YouTube channel for more information. And of course, our associated platform for any upcoming broadcasts, as well as the final two rounds of this series, which will take place at Virginia. And, well, sorry, excuse me, Sebring, Suzuka, Virginia, and Road Atlanta. So, plenty of rounds remaining, I guess, which is nice to see.
Oh, absolutely, and some very iconic circuits to finish out the rest of the season as well. So I think from what we're seeing tonight with the racing and going on, certainly in for a lot more of a treat from these drivers as well.
So here they are. This is Cherry Sara through the final corner. 1.5 seconds behind Matt Allison. It looks again like Matt Allison's got this race under control. Initially, Damon Mulqueen was in the second position, and look at that lap time there, a 2 minute 0.9. Half a second quicker than your top two is Damon Mulqueen last time out.
Yeah, that's a very quick time, and yeah, that was probably what we were seeing with the BMW, the front engine cars, able to be a little bit easier on the tyres getting out of those corners, and that lap time very, very sharp from him. But it is still early, so it doesn't want to take too much out of the tyres at the moment. But yeah, the pace that he's got on board, certainly look for him to move up the field and not too far off getting in contention to have a look at second place.
And Scott Newton, our producer behind the scenes, telling us that the Chapel slowdown, for those wondering which corner is Chapel, it's that run out of the Maggots-Beckett section onto the Hangar Straight. That slowdown is brutal. And Scott Newton has done a lot of testing in this car and this new track. He knows it. He's felt it during his laps around the circuit. And that's definitely not what Damon Mulqueen needs for the moment as he hunts down Cherry Sara now for the second position. Look at the gap, though, between him and Martin Casey in fourth. So enough of a buffer to be comfortable not to defend, but the Synergy Sim Racing car here through the Maggots-Beckett section, and this is the section we're talking about, Daniel, the next left-hander. So here's the right, and then the left here of Chapel. That's the slowdown that can really hurt your race.
Yeah, it looks like Mulqueen able to get through there very nicely. He does pick up a bit of a toe, and we'll just keep watching the gap between both the cars coming down as they come down to the end of the Hangar Straight here. So he's going to be looking into a really good position going into Vale here. And with the performance in that BMW, he's going to be able to have that gap close right up. We see him bring it down under braking now, 0.4 of a second between both cars. So the BMW is still getting along very, very well, and having that buffer of a gap between himself and Casey not going to do him any hurt as he fights up for second.
Yeah, almost picked up an off track there through the final corner. Here they begin another lap, and once again 0.3 faster as Mulqueen compared to Cherry Sara in the Mercedes up ahead. Here they head through the loop, and again it's a challenging section, the loop. I think it's probably, if I had to pick a corner I hate here, Daniel, it's probably this section of the racetrack.
Yeah, well, certainly one you can definitely make up a lot of time. You can also lose a lot of time. So you've got to really have your line right. And if you do get into a battle with a couple of cars in front where you're trying to get the crisscross maneuvers done, it certainly can hinder you if you don't get those pulled off nicely.
They head through Luffield, which is what used to be, well, essentially the final corner. This is this was really the final corner here of Woodcote. Cops initially was the first corner. Let's ride on board with Mulqueen. Let's have a listen to him through Cops in the Maggots-Beckett section. It's a very sluggish braking zone, isn't it, Daniel? 3 different braking sections through there, but it's not all in one.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it, you're coming off very early, a little bit of coasting traditionally to get through there, and maybe a gear drop every other corner. So you can pull it up pretty steadily. It doesn't hurt too much, but he gets a nice dive up under brakes through Vale. That's a great job. And loses a little bit of traction coming onto the front straight, but yeah, that section that we went through just before, very you got to be very committed, and you had to do that even in the old circuit to get the most out of the cars through there. So the commitment level for all these drivers is still very, very high through there.
Yeah, and that lap time a little slower that time round compared to Ed. And wow, this is a nice scrap here. This is Benjamin Faulkner in the 8th position. Now that is a Porsche RSR up ahead there of Lado, who is under trouble here, heading through the Maggots-Beckett section. I thought they were alongside each other for a moment. Simon Lata for Riot Sim Racing in 7th, then Benjamin Faulkner for Race on Oz. The Mach 1 Esports car is 3rd in this crew, and that's Dave Clements in the BMW. And then it's Rob Gray for Flying Giraffe in the Porsche. Fourth in the line here is Benjamin Faulkner going for a pass as Lartner defends.
Yeah, it's a big, bold move down the inside. He might be able to pull that one off, gets the inside run, and that's a great positional change. But the BMW coming back down the outside, so these guys not losing touch with each other and still continuing this on to finish off this lap. But it will open the door just behind him as well for Ladder and Clement to try and start getting in on it.
Go for it, Clement. Here he is through the final corner. I don't think he's going to have the run. Oh, he gets an awful run through that final corner. Now, the first corner here heading into Abbey. Abbey used to be a left-hander, now into a right. And now into the braking zone of the loop. And, whoa, Rob Gray searching for a move up the inside. And that's forced. Now, that may be a smart little dive there, I think, from Rob Gray. He's forced Dave Clements offline, but hasn't been able to capitalize on that exit.
No, you do need to be right up alongside the mirrors there going in there to pull that move off. And if you can hang them out wide, is not probably a bad way to be. You could do it in the reverse if you're the car on the outside, hang them tough through the next section. But these guys still giving plenty of room, and you know, we're seeing some great racing as a result of that. Looks like we have had Dean Ross dropped a little bit further back now as well, finds himself in fourth, and Justin Wallace really starting to close the gap on Adam Gardner up front for the lead of the race too. But we'll just stick here for the moment.
Exactly. Well, battles all over the place. Whitaker is about a tenth behind here. Behind Kenneth Ladder for that fifth position in the GTE field. I don't know where to look at the moment. All of a sudden we're getting the battles throughout the field. This is that Chapel section. No off-track, boys. Avoid the AstroTurf. Rob Gray is looking to fly that Giraffe Porsche into the 9th position.
Yeah, he may not be able to get it done here, but he will have a great opportunity coming up into brakes just a little bit further down the road here. So he could have a move, but we're seeing Clement having to go very defensive in the BMW. They got a little bit of lap traffic to contend with as well. Who's that? The 116. So just breaking that fight up just a touch there, but does let the guys get through. And here we are, another change with the two Porsches going for it now.
Oh God, that's Miller behind. Oh, I thought they were going to go alongside each other through the first corner. How about Hopperts and Taylor in the 12th and 13th positions? We don't know where to look at the moment. This is Rob Gray on screen. He's flashing his lights, isn't he? He's either he's frustrated or he's thoroughly enjoying this. Let's look at the damaged Mercedes up ahead. So this race, I mean, I've never seen a race like it this season here. You've come in at the right time, Daniel. This is most fun chaos I've ever seen in GT racing.
Yeah, definitely. And we're only 24 minutes in. We've still got a long way to go in this one. And with the guys starting to work their way through the GT3 field, we're going to see a lot more of this later on. Looks like we've got Miller still working hard on Happerts there. Happerts trying to go around the outside. And actually, you can get a very good slingshot run as Happerts has done here. And these two are going to continue it on coming up to the next section.
We should have called that Dean Ross has lost a couple of positions and he may have received a slowdown through Chapel, we're hearing. So once again, that corner has not been friendly to Dean Ross, who was about 15 minutes ago, Daniel, just under 15 minutes ago, looking to pass Adam Gardner for the lead in the Mach 1 Esports car. Now he's in 6th, about 7 seconds off that lead advantage. No, even worse, even about 10 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, and it's a circuit where it's very easy to get those off tracks. You are pushing them very hard, and you know, as we say, going through that Beckett's Chapel section, the car really wants to run very, very wide there. So trying to keep your momentum up and keep the thing pinned to the inside, very hard to do. So we'll keep an eye on that, but he does have a long way to go to try and recover that, and we know that he's very quick in that Ferrari, but we'll just keep a weather eye to see how he goes. Miller, Gardner and Wallace now up the front of the battle. These two have closed right up now, 0.4 of a second between them, and that gap looking even smaller on camera.
A couple of drivers you can see at the bottom of the screen in the pit lane. That's Brad Hearn in your GTE field. And this is the battle for the lead that we're watching right now, as Adam Gardner has led every lap from pole position and is still yet to be demoted from that first spot. And he takes a very tight line into Luffield. Now he's very strong heading into Cops right now, which is critical because this is one of the best overtaking spot, one of the most important overtaking spots for Justin Wallace.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's trying to get the nose in, and looks like the Ferrari able to try and tuck in just a little bit better towards the apex, but the BMW with the straight line run getting very through. We'll keep an eye as the guys come up through the Maggots Beckett section here, and both cars using a lot of curb to get through there. If anything, maybe the BMW just a touch better on getting through in the setup, but yeah, both guys running it out really wide and using every bit of track.
And can I just point out, sorry to interrupt you there, I think Matt Allison has lost the lead in the GT3. Something's gone wrong for Matt Allison. Now, is there damage? The car. So look at the lead right now. So here's the replay up on screen. Oh, he's there. He's in third already in this replay. So we'll try and find it. But look at Mole Queen and Arisara up ahead. So something's gone wrong for him, Daniel. Oh, he's gone off track here. But again, so he lost the lead and then gone off track once more.
Yeah, that certainly won't be ideal for him, but we know that that car has been very quick out there tonight. Last time by, you know, as a result of that, did drop down, but still very, very competitive. He's still 201.15 last time by, so it's got the pace still in there. So hopefully he's able to come back up, and we've now got all three positions in that GT3 field, less than a second between each other.
Oh, there's too much going on. I can't keep track of this, Daniel. I don't know where to look right now, because now we're going to switch to the GT3s and look at the lead there. Less than a second between the top three.
Yeah, the guys putting on a phenomenal show tonight, and great to see. And it just goes to show with the diversity of all these three cars, just how quick, you know, when you take out the need to work on your own setup and you go in with a fixed setup, just how much it puts the emphasis back on the driver. And these guys doing a great job to be able to continue to race and so close together. Yes, both the BMW and the Mercedes both front rear wheel drive, but all three drivers doing a fantastic job at the moment.
It's certainly here, which is by the way, apologies earlier on. I'll take the hit. I got mixed up with a few different series I've been covering, so there is still 4 rounds remaining after Silverstone today, and once again, it's I should be smart, Daniel. I'm an Australian, and this is the problem.
Look, that's all good. It's one of the great things. We love finding the extra one where you go, oh, there's another race to come. So we'll that's something to keep in the eye. Looks like our second place car looking to show the nose, not quite able to get the move done, but Allison starting to close back up between them.
Yeah, and the fourth car there is a GTE car, so that is not in the GT3 fight. That's Chad Hearn, who's entered the pit lane. By entering the pits early, Daniel, you just fall into a bit of traffic.
Yeah, definitely. I think you realistically, you're probably okay with it, to be honest, because everyone's going to have to go through this traffic at some point, regardless of where you come in for your stop. It may not be ideal to come in this early, but there'll be a couple of strategies at play. Some of the guys will be looking to back time the race and maybe knock that first or the stop out early and see what they can do later on in the race. And then you'll have the traditionalists that'll want to run it near empty off the start and go from there. So I think we're going to get a lot of interesting strategies converge all at the back end of this race, though.
Yeah, this is Andrea Arisara, and there's the GTE car making a, well, that's a nice Land Rover trip to the outside of the snow. Matt Allison for the second position, dives into club, and that's a brilliant pass there by Matt Allison as Martin Casey behind. Allison hunting the lead, and he's looking to reclaim that lead advantage. He so dearly misses.
Yeah, it was a great move. It looks like Casey's come down the lane for his stop as well, so we saw him fire off in the background there, and it's a great entry for these cars coming in. But yeah, Mulqueen will be very, very happy now to have the lead of the race back again. We saw him up there early on having a great run and kind of got himself back into status quo.
Certainly. And Allison now heading through Brooklands. How long? He's got 1 point. Where's all that time gone? 1.8 seconds to Damon Mulqueen. See if you can reel him in. I think in between Mulqueen and Allison is Chad Hearn. So that is Chad Hearn, yes, in the BMW. But maybe Chad Hearn lapping Mulqueen at the wrong time will be able to cost him a few seconds. I'm sure Matt Allison will wish for that. Not the right way to make a pass to the lead, but it could come into play as we see a lot of cars entering the pit lane at the bottom side of the screen.
Yeah, definitely. It will be interesting to see where you come through. Obviously, the GTEs will be able to get a move done pretty much wherever they like down the circuit, but they will want to be careful to not impede the guys racing in class at the moment, as well as getting themselves through. But for those new to the series or joining us, the endurance races tonight, you do have the 2 mandatory pit stops, and on one of those stops, you do have a full set of tyres to go on board. So we're going to see some interesting stops and positions on where these guys come down the lane and get in and out. We're seeing a bit of a mix already with some guys only stationary for as little as 10 seconds, with a few others upwards of nearly 40 seconds doing their tyre stop early.
Well, that's interesting. And that's... do you find anything else with strategy as well in this car? Like any... Because, again, the thing I find is... you start down the back of the order of your GT3s. That's the only time you can really pit early and avoid traffic. But anytime you're a leader in any of these packs, you can't do the undercut strategy, really. So it's all about going as long as you can, I'd assume.
Yeah, it certainly is. And it's a hard one to play. I think if you find yourself coming up into some traffic that you potential there to get stuck behind, you may want to take the risk and dive in. If you find yourself, similar to Allison at the moment, being held up a little bit, do you take the gamble and come in early and then put the emphasis back on the likes of Mulqueen to then come in and cover that off? So it will be interesting, but the big thing is going to be you don't know when the guys are going to take their tyres, and if you take the tyres too soon, how much is that going to impact you in the back end of this race?
Most certainly. Here's a replay up. It's Matt Allison's pass here for the second position. Cherry Sada, the privateer. Oh, that's a ballsy move. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I don't care. That is an awesome move by Matt Allison. Because the GTE in the braking zone, Daniel, was, well, you don't know if it was going to park on the apex or if something was going to go wrong. So a brilliant move there. Yeah,
very decisive down the inside. And in that instance, you really got to go for it. You can't go in half-hearted and hope that the guy's going to get out of the way. You've got to force it in there, and he did that. And both drivers able to get back underway not too badly there. So, yeah, no, great move.
Yeah, but he's still got 0.4 of a second now to Mulqueen. God, he's creeping in. Lap after lap, turn after turn. He's trying to reclaim that advantage. We're half an hour through this race. Still under an hour to go. As the lap time's there. 0.6 of a second gain by Matt Allison. This pass is inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. With the speed that Allison got on board at the moment, he's really just setting up. We see him getting to the inside corner a lot better down on the apex, being able to come in a little bit later, but he's going to have a nice run here with the cars going on down. Where are they now? Coming on down to...
This is Wellington Straight. Not really in use for many years as Allison has a peak for the lead. I don't think... Oh, he forces Mulqueen offline. No, that was a smart peak. The problem is with Luffield, the way that Luffield is designed is that Mulqueen can just park it on the apex, use all the rubber there. This is a long run down to Cops. I think he's going to be a bit too far behind to make a pass. But as long as he's in the clutches, we've seen this before. We want to. Do you want to bet that he'll make this pass in a Vale one more time?
I wouldn't put it past him to have a run down there. He's going to get a nice draft coming back down the Hanger Straight once these guys clear Beckett's and Chapel Corners, which they're moving in through now, and he will have himself a very good run. There is a little bit of lap traffic just in front of him that they will need to contend with as well, but hopefully that should not impede the move of either.
He's a bit far behind for the moment. Getting through Stone, as that's some traffic up ahead, possibly. Ellison doesn't get the best of exits here, and one of the couldn't quite tell, was that a GTE getting, no, it's a GT3 getting out of the way, one of the Mercedes, so just a lapped GT3 car there. I mean, how many cars do we have here on the racetrack? You'd think Silverstone's a big circuit, but 52 cars began the race, Daniel. I mean, I've seen 24-hour races with a lot of cars. I've seen some quite phenomenal races. Never a development series GT league race. Not that there's like a million of these leagues out there, but never 52 cars out there on the racetrack, which is great to see.
Oh, absolutely. I think the last time I saw a field of this sort of size was back in the V8s, to be honest with you. And, you know, the hardest part with this many vehicles on is there's a battle going on everywhere, and it's super hard to find where you need to look, because there's something, the minute you look on one, there's someone else having a crack at another one, and it's sometimes almost impossible. But with the way, you know, what we're seeing up the front with the leaders, these are still, if anything, the closest battles on track right now. Everyone else seems to have got themselves stretched out a little bit further. We'll keep an eye up front. We moved up to Adam Gardner here. He's got Wallace all over the back of him as well. So these guys are going at it hammer and tong for the lead of the race.
And one of those GT3s didn't make it any easier for him. We ran on board with a race on Oscar. This is Wallace going for the first position. Enough. There's 3 race on Oz cars in your top 5, and none in the lead. And Wallace is trying to change that for the moment. Here they run out of Luffield and then Woodcote in the final corner of Silverstone for many years here. And through Cops yet again. You got to brake for Cops, don't you, in the GT3? It's not full throttle. I couldn't say that without laughing.
No. With all these, you do need a bit of a hit of the brakes and a lift, and drop it down to about 4th, depending on your setup, and through you go. You can get through there pretty comfortably. The guys here really working hard, but yeah, depending on how you play it with your brake and coast options, and yeah, certainly a lot of option there. But we got Wallace getting in a great tow to have a look down at the back end of the hangar straight. Not quite close enough to do it, but he does have another option coming up here with the chicane before the end of this lap.
We'll go and have a crack, Justin, heading into Vale. Go for it, mate. No, he doesn't. He's quite irrational, isn't he? And as much as I love a white car, it's getting quite dirty at this stage of the race, as teammate Stephen Lattimore hugs him behind. Those Race on Oz cars in the white liveries are almost matching each other for lap times. But then I thought that said 59.0. Don't let my eyes deceive me. That's a 58.0 for Lattimore. 9/10 of a second quicker than his teammate ahead.
Yeah, and while the two up front are battling, Lattimore's certainly going to be able to come in with that little bit easier run and get up to him. But you're going to find with all 3 of these cars, as especially the 2 behind Wallace and Lattimore, as they stay up behind Adam Gardner for longer, it's going to be harder for them to get that move done. So they really need to get up, close the gap, and then be decisive like we saw in the GT3 field, and just put the move in there and go for it. But yeah, the trap you can fall into, especially sitting in behind these guys for so long, is you end up falling into the rhythm of doing their lap times, and it's near impossible almost to get a pass done, except if you come in for a pit stop or you get a little bit of lap traffic, because we have the Riot Racing AMG Mercedes in front of these guys. Gardner giving a bit of a flash of the lights.
Yeah, he certainly is. That's they make their way past, do they? And through Maggots and Beckett, it's Adam Gardner just well, you can tell he's feeling the tension now. He's probably getting a bit edgy in that cockpit. Oh, did Wallace cut Chappell there? That looked close. I think he'll get away with it, but he gets the draft here on the hangar straight. He's a bit too far behind to make a move. But we've seen more optimistic passes in our time. Track temperature as well at this stage of the race is, if I look at the timing screen, about 40 degrees Celsius, so grip not getting any easier.
No, not at all. And these tyres are going to really start to be hurting. 40 minutes in, nearly half distance at the moment. And yeah, the tyres will be really looking for a break and a swap out very soon. But both Gardner and Wallace still going at it. Lap times comparative to last time by. Wallace touch quicker, a 1:58.24. Plays Gardner on a 1:58.37. So not much at all between them. And that little bit of lap traffic didn't hinder him too much, but actually, if anything, hurt Steve Lattimore a little bit more. He fell off to the tune of nearly 7/10 of a second.
Yeah, this is quite an entertaining battle. I'm loving this. This is brilliant racing. Just to see three very skilled GTE drivers at their best. And we're not even halfway through the event. It said 2:30 p.m. local time there, Daniel. Obviously 9:30 p.m. in Melbourne at the moment. So I'm assuming for any F1 fans, once these drivers head through, excuse me, sorry, once they enter the or exit the race, the F1 fans will be able to watch that event at Hungary and possibly even head to the pub, which would be a nice way to do it with your mates.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing better than a cold beer in the Formula One. But yeah, we'll see how they go. We've got a little battle here. Mulqueen and Allison back to 0.2 of a second and in a fistful of traffic ahead of them. So these two are going to be really looking for the guys ahead to give them a bit of racing room and let this battle continue.
Yeah, so Mulqueen now, he's been passed by Allison for the lead, and it happened like this. Here's the replay up on screen. And Allison, happened at Stowe, my favorite corner in all of motorsports. Matt Allison, well, that was a simple move, wasn't it? Now, you have to defend heading into Vale, Daniel, here, which I think he obviously does right.
Yeah, it's a pretty classic pass there. It is very hard once you're on the outside to be able to get the car to turn back in and hit the apex, and you know, as a result, we do see that change of position there. But these guys are not looking too bad. If anything, they're probably going to get a little bit of help with the likes of Matt Morris ahead of them going through some of the lap traffic in his GT3 car after his first round of stops. So that should, if anything, let these guys maybe continue to close up and have their battle still continue on.
Emma certainly is got to pretty much extrude his lead by quite some more. 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Look at Mulqueen all off the racetrack there. But Allison now, this is helping him right now. Oh, one damaged Mercedes there on the racing line. That doesn't look good. And, well, we're trying to find who it is right now. But, well, luckily everyone hopefully safely gets out of the way.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see, especially on that racing line, as you alluded to. That's, yeah, not going to help these guys at all. But if they're able to keep that car out of the way, shouldn't cause too many issues. I'm sure Race Control will be keeping an eye on that car going around just to make sure it's not going to.
Yeah, most certainly. So, trying to find out who it is right now. This is Matt Morris, and while we find out, Matt Morris is not having the best of races. We've seen much better campaigns from him. We saw him race quite well at Okayama. So far, it's been a cracking race, hasn't it, here for this 90-minute endurance event? And I mean, I've seen less entertaining. In the second super sprint race at Okayama was less entertaining than this. So it's just great to see the racing action up-notch in this development league. And the one thing I like about it is the stewarding too just keeps the driving standards at a top-notch rate.
Yeah, definitely. I think with the live stewarding for it, you really don't get an opportunity to try a half-hearted move and potentially ruin someone's race, because they will be on top of you. So it really keeps the mind focused that, you know, you got to get your moves done correctly and neatly and not impact your rivals. As Matt Morris got himself on the back. Who is that ahead of him? I'll keep an eye on that. Hearn. So going to be a change of position here pretty soon. But yeah, you've really got to be focused on what you want to do. Matt Morris gets that move done, and he's got a couple of GT3 cars ahead of him.
And a lot of leaders in the pit lane, so Matt Morris makes a move there, but look at all the leaders there heading into the pits. Halfway through this race, Faulkner, Wallace, Latta, Lattimore, Clements, Wood, Gallo. And these are some long pit stops right now. Gardner remains in the lead and didn't enter the box. Chris Whitaker in the second position. So if they're taking tires here, Gardner and Whitaker are your best placed drivers in this race.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think Gardner's come down the lane yet for his stop, so he's going to probably try and run those tyres out and maybe look to put them on. I would dare say maybe in the second stint, depending on how the tyres degrade over here. And I'm sure the guys would have put in a heap of time to work out how long you can get out of a stint. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looks like Chris Whitaker working his way through a little bit of lap traffic in front. Still yet to come in for his stop. He's up 5 positions from his starting grid spot tonight at the moment, but still, don't forget, does have that stop still to come.
Yeah. He does. So Chris Whitaker. We'll see if they enter the box this time round. Does he go for it? No, he continues. Whitaker and Gardner continue this time round. So bold strategy.
Yeah, definitely. And I did just see on the timing and scoring as well. It looks like our 2 leaders and GT3, Matt Allison and Damien Mulqueen have both come in the lane for their respective stops as well. So both of those cars only about a couple of seconds different. Looks like Mulqueen was actually able to get out about 5 seconds quicker, so he had a slightly shorter stationary stop for him as well. So yeah, pit stops really starting to come into play now.
Yeah, and Scott Newton just letting us know that the full tank can last about 1 hour for both these cars, for both classes. Sorry, excuse me, not both these cars. Some immense amount of cars out there, but there's the FT1 Motorsport car of Chris Whitaker. Will he go a few more minutes as well, depending on how much fuel he has on board that Ferrari there? As we now flick to Kenneth Latta. Kenneth Latta's made his pit stop. He's out and away, and he's right behind here the 10th place car of Wayne Taylor for Middle Finger Racing. He's he's got a great run out of the final corner, doesn't he? And this could even be a pass into Abbey.
Yeah, he's going to have a go. He gets it up the inside. That's a great positional move and very hard to get done there. So that's a good job. Able to hold it off up into the arena. And just noticed too, a couple of drivers that we actually saw out last night in open wheelers actually back out here. Just saw Wayne Taylor out there and the other one, Matt Morris. So those guys probably maybe struggling a little bit with readapting from the open wheelers back to the GT tin tops, but still putting in very, very good efforts.
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge dive by Kenneth Latta into Brooklands. And skipping over the anti-cut curves there is Latta up ahead now. And into the pit lane is Chris Whitaker. So Whitaker now from the second position. That leaves Adam Gardner in first, the last remaining car to not enter the pit lane. So I want to keep track of lap times here. 58.5 for Gardner. He seems to be lapping quicker than the rest of the field, so he should keep staying out there.
Yeah, definitely. If anything, having the guys around him come into the lane and gives him a little bit more open track, doesn't have the pressure of the guys behind coming in to try and get past him. So he's really able to get the most out of this car at the moment. We've got Justin Wallace up on screen currently running 3rd place, and we'll keep an eye to see where he falls in as Whitaker is in the lane. We've got the track map up, so you can see Whitaker stationary there, and Wallace coming through the final couple of corners here up onto the front straight. And I think looking at that, he will get this pass for the lead, for second spot done.
Yep, it's, that's not even close. Fastest lap of the race for Justin Wallace at just the right time. Chris Whitaker still in the pit lane along with Lee Vandenberg. And Lee Vandenberg is, oh goodness, is falling down the order. So is Whitaker. So is Adam Gardner placed well here? It's a very long pit stop for Chris Whitaker. At least on my timing screens, it's showing at over a minute in the pit lane time. So 42 seconds in his pit box. That was about 5-6 seconds slower than a lot of other drivers out there.
Yeah, I would dare say that's his tyre stint done. So that's checking off one of the boxes on the requirements for the race. Race leader Adam Gardner now in the lane for his respective stop, so we'll keep an eye on that as well, just to see whether he takes fuel for this one or tyres. But the guys do still have that other, or one more compulsory stop that they do need to do. So Will be very interesting to see how they go. Ben Faulkner up on screen, getting on the back of the Redback Racing Porsche there, so good little fight here for them.
And Gardner in the pits too here, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to see Gardner, 51 minutes. That's a long time to be out on those tyres.
So let's we'll see if where he'll feed out. I like that track map we had up there as we were tracking Justin Wallace in comparison to Gardner. Look at the distance behind the leader right now. It was 1 kilometer. Now under that, at 1 kilometer mark, Gardner's out of the pits already. So we're assuming he'll enter the box one more time here, Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at the stationary time there, 14 seconds to me, that's just the fuel requirement getting completed at the moment. We do have the 2 mandatory stops that the guys do need to clear off tonight in the endurance, and that tyre change, they've still got that to go. And he's looking very, very good. The pace that we're seeing out of that car, it was still in the 58s, even 50 minutes into this stint. So he's got a lot of wiggle room to play with.
What do you reckon? He's placed well as we watch Ross and Faulkner battle here? Oh, no, excuse me. That's Ross making his way past the GT3, excuse me. But what do you think right now? He's got a good 17-second advantage. I think he's well placed.
Yeah, I think he'll be setting himself up for a really good run here. We'll keep an eye just on the lap times over the next few laps between Gardner and Wallace and Lattimore, respectively, just to see how they do play out now those first rounds of stops are done. Looked like all those 3 cars didn't take the tyres either. So, if anything, the strategy is probably going to work out very comfortably for both.
So, what's the trick now? The GTEs, if Adam Gardner now fuels his Chris Whitaker there just cut Woodcut like there's no tomorrow. But I was going to say, if Adam Gardner now just fuels his car quite lightly for his final stint, are you able to throw a GTE around and still be quick, or is it like the supercars? In the V8 supercar, you have to be quite smooth. Is Gardner in the pit lane again? Gardner's in the pit lane again. Wow.
Yeah, you're right there. So this will be the tyre stop. So he's knocked both of them out, and with less than 35 minutes to go in the race, this is probably about ideal for him. So he would have got the fuel requirement in. Now this will be the tyres and maybe a little splash just to make sure you got enough to get it home. So he's in a very good position. Dave Miller firing down the lane to clear his stop. Chris Whitaker getting through some lap traffic there, not making it easy for him at all.
Oh, is that 3 wide? I've never seen 3 wide club. And getting a bit restless there. Is that Porsche? Whitaker now makes his way up through the field. So Gardner's now going to fall into some traffic. It stumped me, didn't it? I've never seen a strategy like it. Back-to-back pit stops to knock him out of the way. That's if that works out, that's a very unique and cool strategy.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of guys looking to come in maybe the end of the hour mark.
I thought you were going to say more there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the lap or two to get him up to temperature and then fire on. He should be quite good.
Yeah, you stumped me there. I thought you finished your sentence. It's all good. Yeah, we switched down to the GT3s. Martin Casey down the order. And, we see this every now and then. I don't know why if cars are just taking it easy getting lapped, but there's always seems to be a slow car somewhere offline or on the racing line today. And they're just trying to not impede the drivers of the likes of Martin Casey in that Delta Force racing car. There he is in that another car off the racetrack once again in the background. But again, talking about liveries, Martin Casey seems to have a livery where he, I don't know, it's like a ninja type livery. It scares me.
Yeah, a little bit different to what we're seeing, especially from the guys in front there. But no, I think you get some great liveries starting to come through the field, and everyone's putting on a very nicely presented car for all of them. So here we've got in front of him Newton in the AMG just ahead. That's a great look. That's one of the Race on Odds cars. So I mean, their livery very good damage, though, for Casey. Who did he do? Contact on the back there.
Yeah. Have a look at it through another couple of angles. He definitely said there was damage to which part of the car, the rear end?
Yeah, it looked like Casey just got into the back end of Newton ahead. It looks like a little bit of damage on the nose of his BMW at the moment, but nothing too serious.
Yeah. Looks okay. I think he'll get away with it. He makes it up the inside here, though. In the position. Scott Gamble's just exited the pit lane. He's in 6th at the moment. He's ahead of this bunch. So Casey's got about, as the timing screen updates on the left, got about 9 seconds there, 8 seconds. It's cycling down the more he screams through these first couple of corners. Allison's well placed. So is Cherry Sara. Guess we just have to wait till the final 10 minutes right here, Daniel, to see how the field shapes up in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just keeping an eye on where our former race leader has come out after his stop. Gardner, a little bit further down the order now, finds himself down in 14th, but has knocked over those 2 stops. His stationary time with the tyres going on 33 seconds, so not too bad there, but we'll keep an eye on him moving back up. He's starting to close in on Matt Morris ahead of him.
It's going to be close. We watch Chad Hearn now on screen. Chad Hearn is he made a very early pit stop in that Mach 1 Esports car, and he's just trying to fight his way through the order. He's got Matt Morris up ahead in 11th. So I'm not sure. Do you think Matt Morris just hasn't put in enough practice or something? Because we've seen better races from Matt himself.
Yeah, not too sure. I know Matt spends a lot of time in the vehicle. Obviously does a couple of different series as well, which I've sort of fallen foul of that. Jumping in between a few different cars does sometimes make it a little bit hard to readjust yourself and get back up to speed. But he might just be struggling a little bit with the track layout, and maybe the Porsche not quite to the liking that he may have had last week out of Okayama.
Is Chad Hearn entering the pit lane? So how would you dial in this car? Because the way I see it is Rob Gray is up on screen. The way I see it is a lot of downforce required. One, drive out of corners, and you're not too focused on braking. You're focused more on that high-speed stability.
Yeah, well, not a lot of, from what I understand with the series, not a lot of play in the cars as far as setup is concerned. So you're really, you're really down on how you drive it with the right foot and your brake pedal. So, I noticed quite a bit of difference in the baseline setups between the mid-engine and the front-engine cars in practice today. And some of them will really like the trail braking, which you can certainly do in the likes of your BMWs and the Mercedes. But with the Ferraris and the Porsches, you're really having to get that braking done nice and early, coast it through the corner and try and turn it on itself with the throttle.
Of course, it's all about driving here in this fixed setup series. So with half an hour remaining, it's down to talent. It always is. In fixed setup, there's always these minimal adjustments you can make, whether it's brake bias, as Daniel was saying. Lots on offer right now as we watch Damon Mulqueen, the 5th position in that Synergy Sim Racing BMW. And he heads through Maggotts Beckett's one more time, this triple braking zone portion of the circuit. And looks like a good run here to make a move there on Michael Whiting in the Audi, and possible move to Stowe. Talk us through it.
Yeah, got a nice run out. The BMW, not quite, really forcing the issue down the inside, gets that pass done. I'm surprised Whiting didn't really defend it as hard as what we would have expected, and actually Whiting off in the background, so he's actually spun that car around as well, so that's not a great outcome for him.
So Whiting has spun around, and of course will fall down the order. While that's all taking place, Andrew Malcolm in the race on Oscar, and he's falling down the order because this bunch is making their way past himself as Alexander Newton for Down Under Thunder into the pit lane joins him, and the field starting to spread out in these closing stages. Look at the advantage here for Damon Mulqueen. He's run very deep though heading into the loop, but he's into that 3rd position. And he's quite comfortable as he lets the GTE through this first sector.
Yeah, and looking at Mulqueen as well, he's already come down and made both of his stops tonight as well, by the look. So he should be good to go to the remainder of the race. So another 30 minutes out there on these tyres to bring this car home, and he's in a very, very good.
A new Silverstone, it's not killing your frame rate. Still, I think they've done a good job with it, iRacing, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Comparative to what we've seen on some circuits, the likes of Nürburgring and that, no, very, very good. And I think not as much of a track change, being that it's a refresh and an update in layout to what we traditionally had with the old circuit. So probably the fundamentals very, very similar in.
Terry Sarah's into the pit lane from the second position, so we'll see how this shapes out. But so what have they done now? I forgot what iRacing said, because I read this a couple of months ago. Are they offering the old Silverstone for free, or part of the like the startup package when you join iRacing? Or do you still have to pay for that?
No, I believe they've done it as part of the base content. I think we saw the similar thing happen with Daytona when that got updated as well. That got included in. I believe they also did it with the old Indy cars as well. They sort of roll those in as the newer version becomes available. So yeah, great for iRacing to sort of include a little bit more content, especially for the new guys that are looking to take up the driving challenge and get in board, especially with these likes of series. You may not get the GT cars, but you do get a few good tracks to come out and practice on. And if you do want to get into it, it's a great way to learn and come in. And from the racing we've seen tonight, 40 or 50 odd cars out here with racing pretty much up and down the entire field. I think anyone looking to get involved in it and work on their racecraft certainly could do a lot worse than come and join the Aussie Mixed and Fixed series.
Yeah, exactly. And you talked about the IndyCar. I mean, what more can you ask for than some Dallara Dash action?
Oh yeah, it's certainly come a long way since it came out.
It's a good series if you're on for a little bit of a piss take with your mates. As Matt Allison enters the pit lane and, from the first position. Let's track him, see where he feeds out in relation to Cherry Sara. He's got a 3-kilometer advantage, almost a lapse advantage on Cherry Sara around this circuit. I think Matt Allison's pretty much running away with this win.
Yeah, no, he's doing a fantastic job. He's back in the lane now, so keep an eye on where he pops out. But he's got himself quite a comfortable lead over second place at the moment. Mulqueen getting back into a bit of a fight as well, so we're going to see second and third starting to close up also. And I think looking at our GTE field, we've got Happets in the lane for his second stop. So it looks like most of the guys are going to probably start making their second round of pit stops very soon as well.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's going to come at quite a craze right now. Nathan Huppert's into the pit lane already in the GTEs. You can see at the bottom of the screen is Allison in comparison to Cherry Sara. Is that... I mean, I don't know how Matt Allison's done that, but that's remarkable. Do you have any explanation? How's he done that?
No, look, couldn't tell you at all. That's a phenomenal effort to have extended that lead so far in such a short time. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, 15, 20 minutes ago, we were watching first, second and third. You could throw a blanket over them. They were that close on track. And to have managed to get himself a 16-second lead advantage in the closing third of the race now, that's a fantastic.
You're not a Formula One fan, are you?
Mate, I'm a fan of anything with wheels and an engine.
Oh, it's not bikes, right? Surely not.
Absolutely. Wheels and an engine, I'll watch it.
Oh, come on. All right. Anyway, I think we need Anthony Davidson and his Skypad to analyze that. It's one of those things between Allison and Cherry Sara where you wonder 16 seconds in the past, what's it been, 20 minutes, 25 minutes? It's insane.
Absolutely. I don't know where he's managed to pull that advantage from. The guys behind still in a really good scrap here. Sara and Mulqueen going on. They got a little bit of lap traffic just getting out of the way, which shouldn't cause too much of an issue between them. But yeah, I would not be able to tell you how he's managed to do that.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's brilliant from Allison, but the rest of the field behind are still in some tight little fights right now. Mulqueen less than half a second behind Cherry Sada for the final 2 podium positions. Whiting, Casey in 5th and 6th. And Michael Whiting there, the privateer, he's having a good race so far, up 9 positions from his starting spot. And how about Thomas Wilkes and Andrew Malcolm in 7th and 8th? Nice little scrap between those two. Here we watch Martin Casey up on screen. And he's behind there, Michael Whiting, as we said, the privateer Audi. And another striking livery could be passed by that deadly ninja livery of Martin Casey. Like I say, that Whiting enters the pit lane.
Yeah, Whiting doing a good job in the Audi. I mean, he did have that little spin earlier, which was a little unfortunate for him, but he's doing a great job. The Audi, I think, probably one of the harder cars, especially around this circuit, to get the most of, especially if you want you're someone who's familiar with trail braking or uses that in your own driving style. So he's doing a great job. Gets his second pit stop now underway, and that'll be good.
He's got a few Porsches to deal with behind the host, but Martin Casey. Too much time there. That's the 367 car of Simon Larter. Simon Larter there in the 13th position for Riot Sim Racing. Oh, he's under attack from Lee Vandenberg. That 14th position. Vandenberg up the inside here, and that's going to be a tough tussle through Brooklands. Still alongside each other through Luffield they go. How about Vandenberg? Brilliantly poised, brilliantly smooth on the throttle, and he's up ahead here on the exit heading into Woodcote.
Yeah, that's a fantastic move around the outside to pull that one off. Very, very bold down the inside there, and using everything that Mercedes or BMW had, to get the job done. I think we're going to see a little bit of an off-track for Ross there. He's back under him again, so these two not far away from each other.
Yeah, Larder's going to position instantly. Well, he doesn't get the best of exits, does he? And I think he's, I mean, it looks like a mile behind right now compared to what it was just one lap ago. And he's trying to remain in the draft. And wide on the line through Stowe. I love Stowe, man. I mean, it's so... I mean, mate, you look at that corner and you throw the car in, you nail throttle before you can even see the exit. Front end, when you get it dialed in and when it bites into it, it's so fun to drive.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a corner on the track that you can get through in multiple different race lines as well. So you're not... you're not stuck to the traditional line of turn it in and hope it gets there. You can come in a bit later, a little bit earlier. It really gives you a lot of option to come up with either a really good pass or defensive.
And so nice to see right now. Here's Lee Vandenberg. He back on screen in the 356. And he's, look at that. He's extruded that gap to now almost a second behind. Back to the front though of your GTEs. Where's Justin Wallace right now on the circuit? That's what I want to see. Here he is in the race on Oscar. Now, apologies before. I did think the race on Oscars were full white, but I was having issues with trading paints. I've reloaded it, and now I get to see that brilliant race on Oz livery. Currently in the lead by 2.8 seconds. Is still one pit stop left to go, correct, Dan? So this race is still not over.
No, not at all. Still looks like the one stop to go. One driver I am surprised has come down as far as he had. Gardner obviously has made those 2 stops, but still finds himself down in 8. So previous race leader got a lot of work to do to catch back up, but should be okay. But yeah, as we got the pit stops table up on screen at the moment, the only 2 really in contention at the moment, Ross and Gardner, and they were our 2 race leaders that we saw very early on in the start of this race, and they find themselves almost close together again on track.
Wallace is, he's untouched. Look at his teammate behind. That's 2 seconds. It's Whitaker in 3rd. Oh, we're watching Dean Ross in the 6th position. Now, remember at the start of the race, we thought Dean Ross was going to make a pass for the lead. He's still struggling in that 6th position. And he's there's Matt Morris behind trying to reel himself back up the order. But the good news for Dean Ross is that he is the best positioned driver right now that's made 2 stops. Look where Adam Gardner is. He's 3 seconds behind. There he is now, heading through Luffield. The Mach 1 Esports driver on the back foot now towards the end of this event.
Yeah, definitely. And that's probably not what we would have anticipated, especially at the start, seeing how closely matched both of those cars were. But we know Ross had a little bit of issue early on with a couple of slowdowns, but he's certainly made the most of the performance in that Ferrari and finds himself up in 6th at the moment, pulling away from Matt Morris, who he only just got past a couple of corners ago. And the Ferrari, looking at the lap times, he was about a 1/10 of a second faster last time by in traffic with over Adam Gardner. So the Ferrari working very, very nicely at the moment.
And the lap times coming in from Whitaker and Ladder, 58.1s. Expecting about high 58s in this race right now. Here's Gardner now coming towards a Mercedes in the worst spot possible in the GT3 field. Pretty quick times now, some good times right now, because we know the I rating in this field right now, the highest I rated driver is in your 3K mark. That is the driver of Matt Morris with 3K dead. But, oh no, excuse me, it's Wayne Taylor, 3.2K, so I've got that wrong there. For a hot track as well, it's nice to see not many drivers make too many mistakes, which is, I mean, the thing is, when you do drive a GTE or GT3, I've found that it's not really the hardest car to drive, but it is hard to go quick in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you compare that to the likes of the V8, and we don't want to go too far into it, obviously not in this series anyway, but the V8 requires a lot more controlled approach to get the most out of it. These cars probably a lot more point and shoot, similar to an open wheeler, and that you do get the advantage of the ABS and a bit of traction control, maybe not as much on the GTE cars, but certainly the GT3. So if you're looking at it as terms of easiness, yes, they are an easier car to drive, but they, as you say, do require a lot to get the absolute pinnacle out of them.
Oh, and look at the leaders into the pit lane. Wallace, Lattimore, 2 race on Oz cars timing their strategy to perfection. And where will they feed out in comparison to Dean Ross and Adam Gardner? This is Adam Gardner on screen. Dean Ross there heading through the hangar straight. Yet another time. There's just over 15 minutes remaining. And Wallace is out of his box. It looks like the race on Oz cars. I thought he was out of his box. No, I'm wrong. Has he just entered his box? That looked confusing there. So this is going to be tight here for the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we might see a change here with Wallace. Actually, Wallace getting back underway already, if that's correct. 6 seconds stationary. So he had a very short fill, finds himself back out. I reckon he's almost going to be now provisional race leader by the time the other guys do come in for their final stop. So that's a good move there from Wallace.
Exactly right. I think, 16 seconds is almost impossible to, you pretty much, that's not even with a drive-through penalty, you'd be able to reclaim the lead here. So, Kenneth Ladder on the back foot, and it looks like effective lead is with Stephen Lattimore. Do you think the teammates are going to race it for glory?
Look, I'd like to hope they'd go for it, but I'm sure that both guys will be looking to set up the most points advantage they can definitely get. And if they are able to bring them home 1-2, I mean, that not only helps with the Drivers' Championship, the Team's Championship, puts them in a good stead in both of them for the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, most certainly. This is Lattimore now, your effective leader. I mean, he's driven splendidly, has Stephen Lattimore. He started this race on the 3rd row in this rolling start. And as much as it's all about talent and racing, I did an Indy fixed race today, and I'm not going to speak about how that went. I went into the wall, but I fresh tires in that event as Kenneth Ladder now enters the pit lane, and strategy and everything. Like it doesn't matter how quick you are. Sometimes like a perfectly timed pace car can benefit someone else. 90-minute endurance event can benefit you in terms of thinking. This is what I love about sim racing, because if you're quick on paper, it's not about that. It's about how you execute.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's essential in what we've seen with some of the iRacing special events as well. The Spa 24-hour Le Mans race. You may get that slight disadvantage with a little bit of lap traffic early on in the piece, but everyone's got to fight their way through it. So you may pick them up in a slightly bad spot, a couple of laps here or there, and you'll find your competitors will do the same thing a few laps down the road. So you take the good with the bad, and generally it all seems to sort of fall itself into the right positions. We got Lattimore putting another lap down on a Mercedes GT3 car, gets that move done quite nice and easily up the inside, and I think Wallace trying to go with him as well.
Yeah, that looked like... Is that a Mercedes GTE you said?
No, GT3.
Yeah, I got confused there. So I don't know, it looked like Roy Clark, Racing Today Motorsport car, but I may have got that wrong. So, end of the day, it says the 14th place GT3. So what that's showing on our timing screen is Roy Clark. Nevertheless, Chris Whitaker is the last driver ahead of your leaders to enter the pit lane, and here he is. Let's see if he does it this time round. It's just over 10 minutes remaining. Whitaker gets through Stowe. It says Mouthy at the rear end. I like that. And he will continue for yet another lap. He's got a lot of traffic, though, up ahead. But, nevertheless, has to be said, Chris Whitaker's also driven well. He'll probably feed out, though, outside of your top 5.
Yeah, definitely. And just keeping an eye a little bit further down, looks like Ross got himself into a big battle here with Wayne Taylor as well. Those guys pretty close on track. I think Matt Morris is also buying into that little fight. So that's, I think, 4th, 5th and 6th, all very, very close at the moment on track.
Dean Ross has promoted himself. Some moves there off camera. He heads through to begin yet another lap here this afternoon. These drivers in an hour and 18 minutes have completed 39 laps in the GTE field, 37 in the GT3s, scoring through the first sector. Ross has 11 seconds to make up on Justin Wallace. So if Lattimore doesn't get a move on, let's see if Dean Ross can actually, in the next, it's going to be optimistic, but in the next 12 minutes, let's see how quick Dean Ross is here to reel in the top 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time by for Ross, a little bit slower than the cars ahead of him. He did a 59, but he was coming through Wayne Taylor there, so we'll keep an eye on that. But the guys up front in the actually we saw Chris Whitaker 57.99, so he's absolutely wringing the neck out of that Ferrari at the moment. Lattimore and Wallace not too far behind as far as outright pace goes either. So at the moment we've got Ferraris 1 through 4. And proving to be the very dominant car out there tonight.
So when you come back to Silverstone next time you race here, you're going to go up for the Ferrari?
Look, to be honest, I'm a Porsche fan. I'll probably still stick with the Porsche.
Ooh. Why is that? Because, I mean, it's fixed setup in the series, but is there something that you prefer your own setup, or is it just the way the car handles?
Just love the Porsche. I mean, yeah, if you were to go on outright pace, you'd probably take the slightly quicker car, but no, I like the Porsche. Even though I've got a Ferrari wheel on the Thrustmaster in front of me, I do still like the Porsche.
I thought you were about to say you got a Ferrari in your garage out the back.
God, mate, we can only hope. I think we'd all wish for one of them.
Oh, and a genie lamp pops up, and he grants you 3 wishes. And you wish for a Ferrari, and a Porsche, and a Mercedes. And you get all 3. And we get a good race this afternoon in the GTE field. Your GT3 race has sort of quietened down after the pit stops. But you can see the gaps on screen. 2 yellow highlighted gaps of Casey attacking Gamble, as well as Kennedy behind Ben Arthur for Red Panda Racing. But apart from that, the race is starting to die down. Once those final pit stops are made by your leaders, we will call the order towards the end of this event. Drivers not to make a pit stop so far are Chris Whitaker in the first position. This is in your GTE field, the yellow highlighted order, where on the left-hand side of the screen, it's the blue highlighted order of the GT3. So if you're new to the series, welcome. That's how you identify the two different classes of cars here this afternoon. So Chris Whitaker, one driver yet to make his second stop. Matt Morris, the same for VMMR. And then Wayne Taylor, of course, has been passed by Matt Morris recently. He's also yet to make a pit stop. Add to that list is Pat Gallo and, of course, Dave Clements. I've missed him out, but Dave Clements in other Mach 1 esports car behind teammate Adam Gardner, yet to make his pit stop with 8 minutes remaining. So would you agree with this strategy to make this last pit stop very late?
Look, if all you're doing is fuel, you can probably get away with it, but you're going to be making it very hard on yourself. A 15-second gap that Whitaker's got, you're going to lose a lot of that just in a stationary time, so may not have been the best effort, but all in all, he'll probably find himself drop in, I'd say somewhere around the 8th or 9th position, I think, at the end of this stop.
We'll see how he goes. This is Paul Wood on screen. Haven't really seen much of him in that Bailey Ladders Sim Racers car on screen. And he's all the way down there in that 17th position. Pat Gallo up ahead is the driver who's yet to make a pit stop. So this is Pat Gallo now, that Mach 1 esports car. And again, Pat Gallo has had quite a quiet event. He's going to finish down the order. He'll be looking forward to the next round. As we know, 4 rounds remaining after this. We head to Daniel. We head to Sebring next, Suzuka, VIR, and then Road Atlanta. Now, I commentated on another race at VIR past week. Circuit is hated or loved by drivers. It was quite a thrilling race.
Yeah, look, I've got a bit of a soft spot for VIR. I've had some very good runs there previous, and I mean, you can't take away that circuit with the Oak Tree, which, you know, iRacing lovingly recreated, still there. It's a great circuit. When you get in the rhythm and the flow through it, you can find yourself in some very competitive lap times. I think Sebring next round, it's going to be very interesting to see with all these cars. Obviously, a lot of the GT cars very stiffly sprung, and really looking to see how they manage to get their way down through Sunset Bend at the end of the laps through there. But I think the racing being as good as it and close as it has been tonight, we're going to be in for an even better treat, I think, next week as well.
Yeah, Scott Chambers on screen. That Century Pulse Racing Team car. Beamer, oh, looks great. It looks great. I've never fallen in love with, when I first got into GT racing, I didn't really have it. And the more that time's progressed, man, I love these cars, and they sound incredible as you listen to them trackside, as they scream through cops. They look thrilling, and racing's been good. I was always wondered, you know, I was always been an open wheeler fan, why this form of racing was so popular. But I guess after a race like today, you see why.
Yeah, definitely. And I think every category and class has those kinds of days. And I think we've been very fortunate with the talent out there tonight in both categories to see some phenomenal racing. Chambers down the inside in the Pulse Racing BMW gets a positional change there done, so that's a good move over Ladders. There goes defensive, which you'd expect, and retains that spot, so that's a good position in that car. And 5 minutes to go, we don't have long, so every position that you get now really does count.
Simon Lauder was your GT3 champion last year. He's now stepped up to GTEs. Make up some good positions. But right now he's struggling at Silverstone in that Porsche Riot Sim Racing car. And for Chris Whitaker, though, in the first position, he was GTE champion a couple of seasons ago in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. But today, waiting for that final pit stop, we're assuming he'll make, and then victory should be gifted here to Stephen Lattimore. And that update on the gap between Dean Ross, he's lost 3 seconds since we last looked at it, so he's got no chance of getting on to the first or second positions, but possibly a podium.
Yeah, look, I don't think you can discount anyone at this point, and you just go for whatever you can. We do still have time. Looks like Whitaker's now down the lane for his final stop tonight, so we'll keep a weather eye just to see where he pops out, and if we're lucky, we might be able to get Scott to bring up the track map just so we can keep an eye on that to see where he filters back in. But yeah, we've seen some great racing.
Our brilliant producer Scott Newton behind the scenes in production, and there's the track map up on screen. Whitaker's, oh, that's not even close. You give him credit though. Sorry, Daniel, you give him credit though. He's not looking for the win. He's just looking for a good points haul.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think it's going to be really tight on the exit here with Ross as well. Whitaker able to get back out in front, so these guys are going to be very, very close on track coming up through the arena section. And Ross not that far behind, and we know how good and competitive he is in the brakes. We just catch a glimpse of him in frame with Matt Morris behind him there in the Porsche as well. So these guys only a couple of seconds off the back of Whitaker, and obviously he will be a little bit slower and trying to get the feel for the car now with the extra fuel in the back of it. But he got away with a very slick stop of only around, how was it, 3 seconds, and you don't have long left in the race. 3 seconds is fantastic.
It's a Formula One style pit stop right there. Brilliant. And Chris Whitaker will be on the podium if he can keep it together in these remaining minutes. And that's why he's season 6 champion, a couple of seasons ago. He's showing his experience. And we'll put 3 Ferraris onto the podium. They're filling in their top 4 spots. And for Simon Lata, who's now down in 14th, you take Craig Edwards as an example. Season 5 GT3 champion and then Season 7 GTE champion. So Simon Lata, who won last time out, season for him in Season 8, but if he shows some more improvement, you know what, Daniel? Season 9, we could see Simon Lata there possibly taking the championship. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's what it comes down to. You don't have to be the quickest driver week in, week out to win a championship. You just got to be consistent. The more miles that you're able to get in with any car that you're racing, the better off you are going to be. We might quickly jump up just to Ross and Matt Morris battle for 4th position at the moment. These guys only a couple of tenths of a second between each other, and not much in it. Looks like that gap's opened up a little bit with Morris almost spinning there, trying to get through some lap traffic. So he's come a little bit unstuck. And the other one we haven't really mentioned since his second pit stop was Adam Gardner. He finds himself back down in 6th position at the moment. So those 2 stops that we saw of him in very quick succession really didn't pay off.
Certainly didn't. And you'll be back to the drawing board with that strategy. And sometimes it can be a good strategy, Daniel, but it could also be just, maybe traffic got in the way and forced it wrong. So you really have to evaluate how things go wrong.
Yeah, definitely. And then, the other option you're looking at is how quick do you want to be in there for those additional 30, 40 seconds back to back on a lap. That's a lot of time to put up, and you might find, as we've seen tonight with the guys getting stuck in with a little bit of lap traffic through a few corners, Maggots and Beckett's, you find you fall in behind it, you've got to sit there and wait. So that's all additional time you could be making up. But there's a few things the guys will take back to the drawing board. I'm sure the guys at Mark 1 Motorsport will reevaluate this afterwards, and Adam Gardner will sit back down and look at what he could do maybe a little bit different or take out of it, and they'll regroup and come back stronger for the next race at Sebring.
And we're pretty sure this will be the final lap of the race. Stephen Lattimore here for the Race and Oz team will progress through Stowe and take a jubilant victory. It will be a 1-2 finish for Race and Oz, with Lattimore and Wallace dominating GTE this afternoon in terms of IQ, in terms of strategy, in terms of consistency, and in terms of brilliance. The timer ticks to 90 minutes. It's been a thrilling event here at Silverstone, and for the first time at the new Silverstone for Season 8, Stephen Lattimore will take victory, and he ends out on top. We think that it will be possibly Wallace in the second position here, of course, at the same time. So Wallace is going to keep it together, but a brilliant race so far from Lattimore. And as the timer ticks to 90 minutes through, he's got one more lap to go. And I think, there's so many lap cars in his way. I think he should be fine to take this victory. No one will get in his way for sure.
No, I think he'll bring it home quite convincingly there, and that's a great effort for both of those 2 cars. Whitaker actually fallen back from what I'm seeing in the timing, down to 6th place now. So didn't see what happened to him, but he's actually might have run this thing out of fuel.
Wow, so Chris Whitaker may have misjudged the race there in the event. This one's going one more. And I don't think anyone's going to stop to push him until the end of the event. Here's Lattimore, though, with just a few more corners to go. Any comments on his race so far here, Daniel? It's, again, it's pretty much been based on strategy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely been very controlled and measured, and he's really just worked through the traffic as it's come to him. And it's not outlandish moves to get past it. He's just picking the spots where it's the best and pushing on from there. So no, he's had a very controlled race, very well done, and to have his teammate behind him in Justin Wallace as well, that'll be a great feather in the cap for both those two drivers and the team.
So no commentary curse this afternoon. With a few corners to go here, Lattimore does it brilliant, and he will take a jubilant victory, of course. So brilliant stuff from Stephen Lattimore. He wins the 8th round for Season 8 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. Brilliant race victory from him. Heads to the pit wall to celebrate. It's a 1-2 finish for Race on Oz, as we called before. Dean Ross, though. Oh, look at Gardner here on the final lap, trying to make a move on Matt Morris. Now, this could be a struggle here. A bit of a bump through the final corner. Dean Ross ends up on the podium. Then it's Morris and Gardner in your top 5. That was a nice little scrap in your final positions. This is Matt Allison looking for the win in the GT3s.
Yeah, Allison doing a great job. That gap, we did see it upwards of, I think it was nearly 11 seconds earlier on the race. It has come back down to 6.5, but once he got clear, that's a very controlled win, and another one for the Race on Oz boys. So they take back-to-back wins in both classes tonight. So that's a fantastic effort for both of them. And we'll just watch him come across the line. Shouldn't have too much difficulty. There's no real traffic in front of him that's going to cause an issue, and the lights go for a flash. And yeah, great result for Matt Allison there tonight.
Matt Allison, victor for the GT3 class today for round 8, season 8 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. Damon Mulqueen ends up in second for Synergy Sim Racing. A brilliant result for himself. Andrea Cherisara, driven splendidly today, only 10 seconds away from the race victory, and he ends up on the podium. How about Scott Gamble and Martin Casey, though, on this final lap? Those two slicing and dicing in the final couple of corners. And did we see a position change there? That was very close. And Gamble ends up in 4th. Casey rounds out the top 5. And the racing there continuing on in the final stages of this event. What a finish here today, Daniel. And brilliant for you as well. First time out for this season in the commentary booth for season 8. You got to see a thriller.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better coming in new to the series, and the guys put on a fantastic effort in both classes. I think some great respectful driving. From all competitors out there tonight, and results well done to the Race on Oz boys with the dominant win in both classes, I think, as well.
Yeah, so the drivers still making their way across the finish line. Look at this brilliant aerial shot of Silverstone. And it's weird to see. Is the bridge section really like that in the real world? Is it just that discontinued?
Look, to be honest, not too sure. I wouldn't put it past it, though, now being that it's not really used as the preferred layout anymore. I'm sure they do still run it every now and then, but I think with a lot of those circuits, they probably do relinquish the upkeep on. Yeah, that's that'd be quite weird if it is like that. But anyway, everyone seems to have crossed the finish line. Race control has been splendid by Ryan Kolstad yet again this round. I think it's time to look at your final race results this afternoon for round 8, season 8 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. This is your GTE order. A Race on Oz 1-2 between Stephen Lattimore and Justin Wallace there across the line. And so a good race from those two. Dean Ross in the 3rd position. Then it was Matt Morris in 4th, obviously followed by Adam Gardner. Now, Matt Morris has come up with a result out of nowhere, and that's just played the strategy to perfection for him, because it didn't look like he was in it for most of this race. It was even outside of the top 10 earlier on, and ends up with a good top 5 positions there. Lee Vandenberg ended up in the 8th position, just ahead of David Miller, and Benjamin Faulkner ahead of him ended up in 7th. Now, rounding out the top 10 was Scott Chambers. A few other names down the order. Look where Kenneth Latter ended up at the end of the day here, Daniel.
14th, so troubles for him.
Yeah, a little unfortunate there for Ladder. He put on a good display, though, in the car. Came home about a second ahead of Nathan Haff, 15th, Chad Hearn, 16th, Dave Clement and Pat Gallo. A little further down probably than where both of the pits there others would have liked to have been as well.
So let's cycle through to your GT. Well, they're the rest of the GTE results, excuse me. And then we'll look at your GT3s on screen in just a moment's time. And there they are up on screen as another race on Oscar takes victory. And it is Matt Allison in the number 372. Only won by 5 seconds out of Damon Mulqueen, who kept him honest in that Synergy Sim Racing car. And the Kiwi drove splendidly once again. Andrea Terisara rounded out the podium there with Scott Gamble, Martin Casey behind. Andrew Malcolm and Rob Crisdale in the JP Simshed car. We're quite nip and tuck out there today. Ended up in 6th and 7th, of course. BJ Kennedy down the order in the Riot Sim Racing car in 11th. Up on screen, Roy Clark in 13th for iRacing Today Motorsport. A couple of drivers with some troubles down the order. Sal Galenti, we know, not having the best of events, of course. Obviously, DNF early on in this event. So we will head to post-race interviews first of all this time out, and we will speak to race winner Stephen Lattimore, who came home in the first position and took a brilliant victory. And Stephen, it all came down to a race of strategy at the end of the day, and yourself and your teammate just planned that to perfection.
Cheers, fellas. Yeah, me and Justin, we just sat there behind Adam for a while, and it just was working out our strategy. Come into pits at the same time. I threw in a little bit more in the first time. Justin threw in a little less, and then vice versa the second stop around, and luckily it put me in the lead.
And the new Silverstone, you quite enjoyed it. Seemed like it suited you guys out there, of course. We know it's a fixed setup series, but you guys must have shared some tips on lines and other stuff, and in the race on Oscars, even in the GT3s with Matt, just you couldn't ask for anything more for the team.
Oh yeah, no, the race went really well for all the boys. I'm not too sure. I know Ken and Benjamin done really good. I'm not too sure about the others in the GT3. I haven't spoke to them yet, but yeah, it was a brilliant run by Matt, dominating as he usually does. We'll have to get him over to GDE very soon. But yeah, no, the Silverstone, I love this circuit because it's new to the game, but like the weather was like it was at Bathurst, 41 degrees at England. I don't believe that.
Exactly, that's fake. That is fake. I did some testing at Bathurst the other week, and it was like 57-degree track temp. It was on my own server.
Was that in winter?
Like, mate, yeah, I think it probably was, mate. That's Aussie winter. You know, these Brits don't know what it's like.
No, it was very challenging. And I know for the series that we have at least one night race in Enduro and one boiling hot one, and then mid elsewhere. So I was expecting this one to be nice and steamy, and she delivered.
Sure did. Any final thank yous as well before we let you go?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the boys who joined us tonight over at Race on Oz. Harvey Bay Auto Glass for your auto glass needs. Think Harvey Bay. And all the sponsors over at the forum. And Hayden, if he's watching. Cheers, Hayden.
So cheers indeed to you, Hayden. And we'll see you hopefully next week, Stephen. Hopefully again, another race victory for either yourself or the team. So brilliant race there from Race Victor. Stephen Lattimore took a valiant victory as well in this 90-minute endurance event. Next up will be his teammate. Cheers, mate. Next up will be Daniel Leet, speaking to Justin Wallace, I should say, who ended up in the second position. Over to you, Daniel.
Yeah, congratulations, Justin, on second place tonight in the GTE class, mate. Yourself, Stephen, fantastic job for the team, 1-2 result. How'd you find the circuit conditions out there tonight? Obviously, very steamy out on track, but the Ferrari looked to be the good
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it was greasy out there. You could definitely felt it start to slip around as you heated up. But awesome result for me and Steve. It was yeah, really good battle.
Yeah, definitely. I think you guys were really able to stick with Adam Gardner early on in the piece, and we were a little bit surprised with the strategy of the way it unfolded that Adam came in and knocked over his 2 stops within quick succession.
Yeah, to be honest, I was waiting for him to pop out somewhere like towards the end. I wasn't sure what happened to him. So yeah, he must have had a different strategy then.
Yeah, I think he came in, did both the tyre and the fuel stops, knocked over 1 and 2 back to back, but unfortunately found himself a little further down the ladder. But yeah, for the car and the traffic, obviously you guys found yourselves in a lot of GT3 traffic tonight. How did you find going through the circuit tonight with those?
Yeah, it was that second half of the race, it was it was traffic everywhere. Just but it was pretty good. Most of the time was really good. And it was just a 1 or 2 hairy little moments, a little lock up here and there. Just kind of not reading the other car, I suppose, but overall really good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, with yourselves getting the 1-2 in the GTE and able to take the GT3 race win tonight, it's a fantastic effort for the team, and you guys will be looking to be very good contenders for the team's championship.
Yeah, no, it's stoked. That's a really good effort by the boys. So hopefully we can keep it up for the rest of the season.
Absolutely, mate. Well, before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to before we go let you celebrate second place tonight?
Yeah, well, thanks to Harvey Bay Autoglass and the Race on Oz boys. Thanks to you guys for putting the broadcast on and AMF for the league. It's really good.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you back out on track next week at Sebring.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. So that was came home in the second position. Let's speak to GT3 winner. Now we've kept you waiting, Matt, but another brilliant victory. I'm running out of praise for you right now. It seems to be a recurring result. I think you need to move up to the GTEs.
Yeah, I'm getting that from the boys and the team as well. You never know what will happen next season. I might even go to the Audi just to see how that.
Yeah,
but in all humbleness, I mean, you were challenged quite a bit today from Damon Mulqueen and Andrea Cherisara himself. So it wasn't the easiest of races for you, but do you think you won this on strategy or pure pace? Because you made that mistake earlier on as well.
Yeah, it's Damon and Andrea. I just couldn't pull away from them. So hats off to them. They were absolutely flying. So it definitely made it difficult. But yeah, I think it just came down to strategy in the end, and a bit of luck coming out of the pits after my first pit stop, having no cars around, so I was able to just head down and pump in some quick laps, and I think that helped, because I think at one point when after all the pit stops I was about 18 seconds in front. I was okay, I'll chill out and let the GTEs pass easy.
Yeah, and finally, are you? How does it work on the Race and Oz teams? Do the GTE sort of bunch work with you with the GT3 drivers? Is there anything you learn from the two? Because obviously, like I spoke to Stephen earlier, set up series, but you can still discuss lines and different curves you can take, and there's so much more.
Yeah, like the boys do get together and help out the rookies, just to let them know, have a look at telemetry and things like that. But for the more experienced guys, like Steve and Justin, myself, have been around for a while. We just do our thing and help out where we can.
And finally, anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go once again?
Yeah, usual shout out to Harvey Bay Autoglass and Ian, and Century Batteries up in Lismore and Ryan for putting on an awesome series again, and also Apex.
Thanks very much. So that is Matt Allison, winner in the GT3s. Your last interview will head to Mulqueen, who is alongside Daniel Leet.
Yeah, g'day, Damien. Congratulations, mate. Second place tonight in the GT3s. You found yourself in some great battles early on in the piece with Matt Allison and the guys there. How did you find it out there?
It was pretty intense. Early on, I thought I had a bit more pace on Matt, so I was trying to get by, and I think I got a slow down somewhere. Can't remember where. This race was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like there's a lot going on, especially from what we were able to see tonight with the amount of cars out on track. It was very busy, pretty much everywhere on the circuit. Were you guys finding it very difficult with the battles you guys were having, being able to manage that and also clear the GTE cars to let them continue on?
Well, when we didn't get really interrupted too much by GTE cars, more towards the I think it was the first stop, we started getting mixed in with them. So there wasn't really too much to worry about there. It was more just trying to not let one another by, or try and get by the other guy without letting the other through. And yeah, it was it was crazy. But towards the end, I think after my second stop, I just got real bad timing and got a whole heap of GTE cars coming through, and I ended up going. I think I went into the pits first for the second stop, and then ended up being third on the way out. By the time everyone cycled through, and I just then sort of tried to use the GTE cars coming through to my advantage to get past into second.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great way to put it. With the, I guess the other thing that we noticed very difficult out there tonight, the track conditions being very hot. How did you find the BMW sort of reacting to that over the long run? Obviously, you guys did have the tyre stop to make throughout the race, but for the long stints early on, how did you find the tyres holding?
The earlier stints, I think being stuck in behind Matt for most of it, and then battling once I got ahead, I think he had to slow down as well. Just chewed those fronts away really quickly. Compared to the V8, V8 supercar, I was actually really good at looking after the tyres in that couple of weeks ago, and then coming to this, I think I just was going a bit too hard. Chewed them up very, very quickly, and unfortunately, I'd end up starting to lose time before that first stop. Which I did my fuel then, and then a lap later, the next lap, came in and did my tyres just so I could try and use the fresh tyres to the advantage. And with the open space that I had, I thought I'd be able to get try and get past Matt and everyone, but as I said, those GTE cars came through, and it just sort of balked that run that I had. But I did manage to look after those tyres a lot better in the second run.
Yeah, well, looking at the lap time consistency, you were able to put down a lot of it in the low to mid 2-minute mark. So the car performing very, very nicely tonight. Before we'll let you go and celebrate, but before we do, was there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to for help in not only getting the car looking the way it does, but helping you with some pointers around the circuit?
Well, it's not really too many pointers. I really have to thank Brendan Hobson for making me do the V8 Australian Online Supercar Championship race with him. That's sort of what got me to learn the track and made it a lot easier coming into tonight with a completely different car. I'd like to thank the guys at Synergy Sim Racing, Trackstar Racewear, DGG Customs, CSR Fabrication, JK Signs, Eaton, Possie's Mechanical, D-Photo, Newlon, 88 Media, and I think that's everyone. There's a few.
No, that's all right, mate. So make sure you got the post-it note on the bottom of the screen for the next one. But
beautiful screenshot right in front of me, and I think I may have missed one or two.
Look, you're ahead of us then. But no, next week going on to Sebring, we'll certainly look forward to catching you out there again in the BMW, and hopefully you're able to have a good run out there for Synergy next.
Yeah, cheers, guys. I really enjoy Sebring and whatnot, and the Beam. I've had good memories there in the past.
Fantastic, mate. Well, Damien Mulqueen, second place tonight. Congratulations, mate. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah, we'll do, guys. Cheers.
That is Damien Mulqueen, who ended up on the podium. Final interview is with Dean Ross in the Ferrari and your GTEs. Dean, what happened in the early stint? You looked good to make a pass for the lead, but it just all went wrong from there for you, it seemed.
Yeah, just used too much tyres. Wore out the tyres and then started making little errors. And mate, if you can, adjust the brake bias in the car, even though the fixed setups, and went the wrong way with that. And before I knew it, had a half lose, and yeah, it cost me a fair bit of time. So, yeah.
I don't think you could have won this race though without that, or do you think you were still a bit too far behind?
Looking at the time I lost compared to the distance at the end there, I don't think I would have had the pace, but you never know. With the tow, might have been able to keep up, but can't worry about that now. It's all said and done.
Exactly. But heading over to Sebring next, it's quite a similar circuit to to a few tracks this year that we've been to. We know that it prepares you for VIR quite nicely as well. A lot of bumps though at Sebring, which is going to be the challenge.
Yeah, I had a half decent result last time I raced there with AMF in the GT3. So yeah, kind of looking forward to it. But, yeah, you get used to the bumps and you just it becomes part of the lap, and yeah, it should be fun.
And anyone to thank the boys, the team?
Yeah, thank mum and dad, because without them I wouldn't be. Obviously, Ryan and Justin at AMF for putting it on every week. Yeah, it's all good fun. And obviously all the guys that you race against, it's all, not for sheep stations. Everyone's out there having a great time. So, really enjoy it.
A really well-run series it is here at the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. So thanks again, Dean. We'll hopefully see you next week. And hopefully you get another decent result at Sebring itself. But Daniel, that is it for our coverage this afternoon. And talking about Sebring, we head there in a week's time. And I just discussed the bumps corner of Sunset, and then heading into the first corner. Thrilling corners in this car, and you're going to see multiple lines heading into turn 1. The only thing is can I make a special request for the standing start?
Oh, look, don't know. I think that's something that you might have to take to the race officials to see whether they're willing to do it. But for Sebring itself, I mean, there's been countless great races over the years there. It's a track that I'm pretty sure a lot of these drivers are very, very familiar with and know how to get the most out of. So I think racing will be just as intense as what we've seen tonight here at Silverstone. And if anything, may even throw up a few surprises with those bumps, as you mentioned.
Yep, and that event, of course, will take place. Well, practice and everything will go up at 6:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. But, of course, the broadcast will begin at 8:45 p.m. at 12:45 p.m. GMT. No, excuse me. It'll be at 10:45 GMT. So we're getting a bit confused there. But that will take place on the 11th of August, of course, from Sebring. It'll be in a week's time, like we said. It will host round 9 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development Series. Thanks to our sponsors, of course, for the series of Century Batteries Lismore and the race management service at rms55.com.au. Today, this has been an Apex Racing TV presentation from myself, Jonathan Simon, from Scott Newton and Daniel Leet, alongside me in production and on commentary. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we say so long from Silverstone, the new version, for the first time.